Ja, den neste seksjonen her nå med foredrag skal, som jeg nevnte, handle om utdanning. Og om både utdanning av journalister og hvordan man kan bruke droner i den type utdanning, og utdanning i flygerutdanningen. Så vi har 3 foredrag nå. Vi skal starte med Turo Uskali, som Associate Professor på University of Jyväskylä i Finland, og også tilknyttet vårt prosjekt med en professor 2-stilling. Vi håper å ha et veldig bra samarbeid med Turo, og de var noen av de første som tok i bruk droner i Europa i journalistikkutdanning. Så nå skal vi få høre litt mer om det. Dette foredraget på engelsk, så jeg regner med at alle forstår. Så.
Thank you for inviting me to this very important event. I think this is the very first focusing on drones and media in Nordic countries, so congratulations, Astrid. So, we are not the biggest German school in Finland, but we are the best, because we are the smallest. Not the smallest, but the second smallest. So we have the strength of being quick. We can make decisions right now. So we also started piloting with drones actually already 2014. We have this kind of special course. It's called multi-platform journalism. It's mandatory for all the students, the second-year students. And by surprise, the code name is 007. It's inside that code. So that's very handy for us that we can start testing new gadgets, new applications every semester. And 2014, we bought our first drones. Let's say there's this first generation drone, Parrot, and then there's this let's say second generation of Phantom 2. And what they had to do actually was, well, actually this is a bit further. In this starting course, we had only a couple of hours of theoretical lecturing and then some minutes of hands-on practicing. And then we said to the students that please go to the city and try to play with these, because they are representing the generation of PlayStation. So of course, they were all able to do the task, no problem with that. But sorry to say, we don't have any parrots anymore. So I think that's very typical when you start something with minimum minutes of flying practicing, there will be crashes. So actually several crashes. And there were several tries to put the parts together, and it flew a couple of times, and then it crashed again, and it was heavily going to left all the time, so it didn't pay any, our efforts to just continue with that. So we went to with other drone model at that time. So based on our first experiences, we wanted to continue focusing on drones, and we wanted to create a special course for that, and that course was organized last autumn. It was like 1 month intensive course, and it was free to all our students. It was not mandatory, but you just can take several of these special courses. And it looked like this after 1 week, actually. So what is our great benefit is that we have the only sport faculty in Finland. And along that, we have a lot of sports fields to train with. So for the very first time, as a journalism instructor, I had to make reservations to our sports fields. So it looked like this, and just a couple of days later, I was able to read The Economist, and it looked like this. So we were pretty close. They started to realize that actually we are just now entering into the drone age. Of course, we don't have that many drones yet, but similar kind of situation in the air. So, this is sort of the minimum credit units course. 2 credit units were given to the students. There were 12 students which started the course, and there were altogether 4 instructors, so including 1 technician. And we had 10 hours of theoretical lecturing, starting with just, the basics, the very short history of drone journalism. Actually, the journalism education started in the United States already 2011, when Matt White established his very famous drone journalism lab. But since then, they have had big problems flying drones outdoors. It's prohibited, actually. So they either have to now go indoors or just travel abroad. So they even started a MA level course on drone journalism, but the students, in order to sort of end their studies, they had to go to India, to Africa, to South America, just piloting the drones, because it's still prohibited in the United States. And nowadays, it is also needed that the instructor, the head of the program, has a real pilot license. And here is only, I think, Arne Krumsvik who can do this around here, right now. And he can go to United States as well. So we started with introduction, then we collected all the best practices we were able to find. We made a round to our Finnish newsrooms, and we were able to understand that they started to use drones already 2012. They do that mainly by hiring expertise from the contractors who can sort of take this kind of aerial images and video clips. But nowadays, I think there are now several newsrooms who own their own drones. Then, of course, the limits. As we have heard around here, there is legislation, there are rules, there is ethics. We have to be very careful to obey all the rules, just in order to continue everything we have done so far. Then we also started, along with this education, a small research project, which is very typical for us, that we want to always combine research and education. So we were able to find some new results and present those to our students. And then our final sort of gathering was mainly about screening the students' works. And then we got some feedback and had a very good discussion for the future development. And the literature we used was this seminal report published by Reuters Institute at Oxford, and of course Astrid's seminal paper about the robot eyewitness. So it looked like this, very typical classroom kind of teaching, in addition with some models of drones. And then, I think the most important of all was that we had enough outdoor practicing. So altogether, we reserved the sports fields for 18 hours. And sometimes we also separated the student groups into two so that there were enough time for each student to do this kind of drone practicing. And then, well, it looked like this. So of course, all the students, they had to sort of assembly all the propels properly. They had to insert the battery. They had to take the shape of the camera and repeat this so many times that it was almost automatic. And then just, start flying it. So of course, this is very much also related to the weather conditions. There are some dark clouds, but we were lucky. There were no rains during that period of time, which is like record-breaking. In Finland, in autumn, I think around here as well, it rains a lot in general. So with rains, it's not advisable to fly drones. They are still high-tech and not that waterproof, because I think they are still mainly manufactured in China or in California, and they do not have that kind of problem with weather as we do. So also we had these kind of mini drones for indoor practicing, and beforehand, when we were just thinking, well, it's autumn starting and everything, we were sure that we will be a lot of times, instead of being outdoors, we will be indoors, and then we have these kind of small indoor drones to use and practice with. But we had only a couple of hours, actually. So the main sort of critical feedback from the student was that we didn't have enough time to use these kind of mini drones. And so actually finally we had these kind of screenings. This story tells about drinking festivities of students, very typical topic when you just want to choose, some topics that you are really interested in. So the starting place for that festivity was the very same sports field where we're using for our drone practicing, so it was very easy to start with that. So part of the story, news story, was some footages from air. Then another one, slightly more challenging, was that there is this kind of special pet day. There are dogs and cats and horses and ponies, and they have this kind of cavalcade from the very city center to a park where they have different kind of fun things there happening, and this pair of students picked up that as a topic. And then finally, I'm showing only you one of these examples, and it's our dump. So as you can see, there are several opportunities to pick up topics for your drone filmings. And I think this was the only which is totally drone made. It's aerial image video only. They didn't do anything on the ground level. And I think as you have learned so far, usually when you have the original sound of a drone, it's quite irritating. So many times you watch video clips from drone footages, there are some kind of background music. And for this video, the students just did their own music for that. Let's say music. Let's say whether we can play that one. Sound is fine. So of course, they asked the permission to fly there, and that was given very easily actually. But they needed to wear, special vests that people were able to understand that they are there. And they had some luck with the fog. It gives some extra flavor for the footage. Also flying indoors in a way. So slightly different perspectives of our dam. And there are the students, selfies kind of thing. So I think it's good to have some kind of conclusions then, finally. Well, I think I can start already. We heard earlier that NRK wants to have like 50 hours of flying, practicing before doing the real job. Well, we demanded 60 minutes flying experience from our students. So I think in order to go to the next level, 50 hours is much better actually. But we didn't have that sort of luxury of time. And I think we are still in the sort of testing phase. So, but I think in conclusion, they all were able to do their filmings with this number of minutes. So indoor back practicing was not enough, and actually with those smaller, quite cheap indoor drones, it's much more difficult to operate. It's very difficult because outdoor drones, if you don't know what you should do, you just take your hands off and it stays there in the air. But with mini drones, with these cheaper ones, if you take your hands off, it comes down or flies to the walls or something like that. So it's much more efforts and skills are needed using these mini drones, and they all have HD cameras. So theoretically, you can use these mini drones as well for your news story if you want to have some kind of inbuilt filming, as we saw earlier today. And weather conditions, as said before, if it's too windy, if it rains, so especially for these models, it's not advisable to use those. This is the third time you see Lily today. I think we are all paying some attention to these new models, and it looks fun as well. And I think it's waterproof as well, which really is something we are looking for. So maybe we will have this to our fleet soon. Well, the feedback was very positive from the students. They said that they had really fun, and maybe for the first time during their studies. But they really enjoyed. Well, the future looks bright, quite good for us in Finland. I think in general in those countries which are in the high ranks in the list of the freedom of press. I think Finland, well, according to the Reporters Without Borders, ranks Finland as number 1 and Norway as number 2. So I think we are in very good positions to just continue our testing with drones also. So we got our new rules a couple of months ago, and our Finnish Transport Safety Agency marketed that it's one of the most liberal aviation regulations in the world right now. And this is our fleet. So we had Parrot. There are some remains left that we can show to the new students as well. DJI Phantoms, we have 2. The latest and the newest model has a 4-key camera, which is good. DJI Inspire is very easy to control, and that was the reason why we bought 2 of these. Just, you know, when having your very first outdoor practicing, it helps. And then we have, you know, these kind of cheaper mini drones as well. So, thank you. Some questions, comments, maybe? Yes, of course.
Yeah. You should have stalkers to your drone park.
Excuse me, at what?
You should have stalkers
Stalkers.
to your drone park.
Oh, right, okay.
The originals from NTNU.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Did you have any injuries by your students?
No, not that they told us, at least. But I think we should have known if they had some problems. So with the Phantom, they had some minor accidents.
Do you teach the students anything about going abroad? Typical for a journalist is to go abroad and collect the stories. How is the regulations in the rest of the world? For instance, in Australia, Africa, America, whatever.
Well, it varies a lot, actually. And in general, in many countries, there are no regulations yet. But we have noticed that, especially if there are some political unrest, the governments can very easily to ban all use of drones in that country. There are many examples. For example, in Thailand, in Kenya, just a couple of weeks ago. And before that, those areas were very good for, you know, testing drones. But then, you know, the government can decide very quickly that it's no use to, you know, fly drones here. So there's always this kind of political tension. Freedom of speech versus, you know, the government's will to, you know, regulate everything. But in general, I think when we ask from the Finnish news organizations that have they used drones abroad, and they all said no, not yet. But I think, for example, BBC and several American news organizations, they have traveled to you know, many places, and they have used drones there. So I think it's quite common, and it's coming to us as well. So.
Well, since I'm going to deal with this myself as a teacher, I'm wondering about the journalistic aspect of the filming. Because it's nice, it's good that they learn how to fly the drone in itself, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But to what extent and how do you intend to make it into even more real journalism?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think when having a longer course, maybe the next level, the advanced level, I think there should be like 4 months to go. Then you can do much more precise planning and even wait for news events. Just, test how does this work. Of course, all these images can be used for, let's say, documentaries already. Because, for example, the dam video, they are going to close that dam. So in a way, it's kind of historical material already that they have, the students, I mean. So, but it's a new challenge, as well as practicing in winter conditions. We know that the battery life is less when you're using in cold temperatures, but I think next week we will start testing of that.
Part of telling the story is, of course, the pictures, but you would like to have sound, and as Erik said in his presentation, that you can't have sound yet, but to have a very directional mic is just about physical dimensions and way of building it. But when you get further into it, have noise cancelling. I tried noise cancelling headphones 15 years ago. Then Bose was making it for the aircraft pilots, and it's now you can buy them. And I got my new Sennheiser headset, is just fantastic. And I think that when the microphone get developed with noise cancelling, you can actually probably just get rid of the noise from the drone, and you can probably also start to pick up sound from the drone. Do you know if there is anybody that have been looking into that option?
I don't think so. I think, what I know that there are, other, let's say, mics on the ground level taking the sounds and effects, and then you are editing it to that. So, but I'm not sure whether NRK, for example, have some tests with the sound.
Not noise cancelling, no. So just we edit everything.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, thank you. Maybe we can. I have one last comment, by the way, and I think that what we can see here is one aspect is this technical stuff, as Lars said, at this level, but we need to focus on, as Eirik said, I guess, how to use this in storytelling.
Yes.
And I think that the clips that you showed was really good for that, because how can you visualize all the waste that we produce, and there you have a story just because you can see it like this. So
it's very good for environmental reporting.
But one more question.
Yes, I was wondering, when you did your flight training, did you have a focus on the camera and how to use the drone as an instrument for making videos, or did you have a focus on flying?
Well, first for flying, just taking off and landing, and the landing was like quite bumpy first. So, but then in later rounds, of course, because we were able to see in live what the camera was focusing at, so there were different kind of tasks for the students, and there were always some runners on the field as well. So we followed those runners, for example, and we went like 100 meters, and we were able to see the whole city. And then we had several tasks that focus on certain areas or certain buildings from that height. And yes. Later on, it was mostly how to use the camera.